On the morning of March 10th, 1988, a fisherman made a grim discovery on the banks of the Genesee River in upstate New York. He found the body of June Stott, a woman who had been missing for weeks. The scene was one of serene beauty, now a crime scene. Her body was a tableau of violence, a silent scream frozen in time. Stott was the first. Her death was a mystery, a brutal, seemingly random act of savagery. But it wouldn't be the last. For over a year, the city of Rochester would be stalked by an unseen predator, a ghost of the mind who hunted women, left their bodies in hidden, watery graves, and then vanished. The man they were searching for wasn't a stranger. He was a neighbor, a husband, a familiar face with dark past no one knew. To understand the monster, we must first confront the ghost. Arthur John Shawcross was born in 1945, but his life's true beginning was steeped in a cauldron of abuse and psychological torment. His father, a violent alcoholic, ruled a household with a reign of terror, dishing out brutal, physical beatings for the slightest infraction. But the scars he left were not just on the skin. Arthur's mother, a deeply disturbed woman, inflicted a different kind of pain, a psychological poison that would warp his mind forever. She would tell him, with a chilling matter-of-factness, that if he was ever a bad boy, she would castrate him. This wasn't an empty threat. It was a constant, haunting promise, a phantom limb of fear that shaped his every thought. As a child, Arthur displayed all the classic warning signs of a deeply troubled mind. He was a pyromaniac, lighting fires just to watch them burn. He was a relentless bedwetter well into his teens, a symptom of severe emotional trauma. But even then, he was learning to manipulate. When confronted, he would feign innocence, playing the role of a sweet, misunderstood boy. He had two personalities, the charming, quiet mask he presented to the world and the simmering, volcanic rage he held within. This dual masking, this ability to switch from one persona to another, would become his most dangerous weapon. In 1968, Arthur enlisted in the U.S. Army and was deployed to Vietnam. This is where the ghost truly took form. While serving, he was involved in a horrific incident that forever changed him. The official story claimed it was an accident of war, a tragic mistake in the chaos of combat. But the reality was far more sinister. Shawcross was involved in the killing of a woman and a child. His superiors later reported that he seemed to relish the violence. He spoke of it with a chilling, detached fascination, a man who had found a dark calling in the brutality of war. The experience didn't traumatize him. It awakened a monster. The ghost came home with him. In 1972, not long after his return, the violence he had unleashed overseas found its way to the streets of New York. He lured a 10-year-old boy, Jack Blake, into a wooded area and brutally murdered him. 2 months later, he did the same to an 8-year-old girl, Karen Ann Hill. The community was in a state of shock, but the police were swift. Arthur Shawcross was arrested. At his trial, his lawyers presented a novel defense for the time, not guilty by reason of insanity. They cited his horrific childhood, his traumatic military service, and his documented psychological problems. A jury, faced with a man who seemed to be a product of forces beyond his control, delivered a controversial verdict. He was found not guilty, a diagnosis of severe personality disorder deeming him beyond control. He was sent to a maximum security mental institution, a place where he was supposed to be cured. He presented as a model patient, cooperative, quiet, seemingly remorseful. He attended group therapy, worked on his anger management. We believed we had made progress. The man who had entered our facility was a killer, but the man who was leaving, well, he seemed changed. He seemed cured. The doctors believed they had vanquished the ghost. After just 15 years, a panel of psychiatrists deemed him no longer a danger to society. In 1987, Arthur Shawcross was released. He was given a new identity and a new address in Rochester, just miles from where he would commit his future crimes. The community, unaware of his past, welcomed him. He was just another quiet man, a truck driver, a husband. But the doctors were wrong. The ghost had not been cured. It had simply learned how to hide. The killing started again in 1988, a year after his release. This time, his victims were women, many of them sex workers. The police were slow to connect the disappearances. Arthur Shawcross moved with the eerie confidence of a man who knew he would not be caught. He had learned from his past mistakes. His work as a truck driver gave him the perfect cover, allowing him to travel without suspicion. He was a predator in plain sight, meticulous, patient, and ruthless. The first victim was found, then a second, then another. The city's terror mounted as a new name was given to the unseen killer, the Genesee River Killer. He wasn't a ghost anymore. He was a reality. In 1990, after a reign of terror and the discovery of multiple bodies, a simple mistake finally led to his downfall. Shawcross, driving his truck, was caught in the act. He was arrested and the facade finally cracked. What followed was a chilling confession that lasted for days. With a terrifying calm, he described the killings in graphic, surgical detail. He led detectives to the graves of 11 women he had murdered. In his mind, these women were not people. They were objects to be used, disposed of, a pattern of violence he had learned from childhood and perfected in war. He claimed the killings were a result of his trauma in Vietnam, an act of cleansing the city. The jury didn't buy it this time. There was no insanity plea, no second chance. He was found guilty and sentenced to 250 years in prison. In prison, Arthur Shawcross was a model inmate. He was polite, cooperative, and seemingly at peace. He spoke of his love for his family, wrote letters, and appeared to be a harmless old man. But the psychologists who studied him knew better. The calm exterior was a permanent mask, a carefully constructed facade to hide the ghosts in the mind that had been there all along. The dual personality he had developed as a child had become his permanent reality. He died in prison in 2008, his death a quiet end to a life of unimaginable horror. His legacy is a haunting one. It is a story of how a tortured childhood can create a monster, how a broken system can unleash a predator, and how a ghost in the mind can terrorize a city. The Genesee River eventually washed away the physical stains of his crimes, but the memory of the ghost he unleashed on a city would remain forever.